Good evening, everyone. Today is Monday, March 23rd of 2026. This is a special meeting of the Planning Commission for the City of South Haven, Michigan. I'll call this meeting to order, and I'll ask Samantha to read the roll, please.
Michael Campbell,
Here.
Paul Fenton,
Here.
Clark Gruber, Larry Heinig,
Here.
Mary Hasley,
Here.
Tim Stegman, Janice Varney,
Here.
Bob Sherman.
Here.
Chairman, I would
Yes, ma'am.
move to excuse Commissioners Gruber and Stegman.
Support. It's been moved and supported to excuse Commissioners Gruber and Stegman. It's been supported. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? They are excused. Thank you for that. We have an agenda thanks to Kelly and staff. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as submitted?
So moved. Second.
Moved and supported. All in favor of approving the agenda? Say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. Public comment, as I'm sure everyone knows, citizens may address the Planning Commission regarding items on the agenda for which there is no scheduled public hearing. We have 4 items on the agenda tonight. Each of them have a public hearing associated. So your comments will be welcome, but ask you to hold those until the item in question is under discussion. So we do have some communications received, as always. I'll give you a summary of those from Keith Kalinowski and Anne Marie Heidbuchel in opposition to changes at 241 Oak. Mark Pratt and Sigrid Hahn in opposition to changes at 241 Oak. The Carollo family in opposition to changes at 241 Oak. Then we had an interesting one. We had a communication from Lorna Whittles in opposition to changes at 241, and then a change of heart. Same citizen, Lorna Whittles, sent a message in favor of the rezoning of 241 Oak. And then Jan Lexich, if I'm pronouncing the name right, I hope I am, in favor of the rezoning of 241 Oak Street. So those are the comments we've heard. Does any of the commissioners have one that I have omitted by chance? All right, then. We can move on to agenda item number 4, which is the applicant to request the rezoning of 241 Oak Street. Kelly, do you want some background, please? And is that applicant here, do you know?
Yes, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
great.
So this item, this request from the Victoria Resort is back on the agenda. As you said, it was first on the Planning Commission agenda in April of last year, and we did have a public hearing notice error at that time. And here we are again for a bit of time. We did discuss conditional rezoning, but that did not come to fruition, and the applicant decided to continue with the straight rezoning, if you will, rezoning application from R1B, which is a single-family residential district, to RM1, which is a multiple-family residential district that would also permit resorts by special land use. And Brad's office has worked on the staff report for this. Do you have anything that you wanted to add at this time, Brad?
No, I just wanted to bring up that there are a few points, again, with a traditional rezoning that you have to keep in mind. Sorry, I don't have that. Those points primarily being that anytime a planning commission considers a traditional rezoning, that you have to consider all potential uses in that district, whether permitted or special, in the future, unless the applicant comes forward with a conditional rezone where they're requesting a specific use in that district, which ties them to that specific use. It is open specifically for all land uses. So those land uses are principally residential in nature. Because it is a multifamily residential district that they're requesting coming out of a single-family residential district. However, there are other things like assisted living facilities, senior housing, bed and breakfast, convalescent homes, resorts, things like that, which are permitted as special land uses, as Kelly had mentioned. Second is that it's compliant with the master plan. Currently, you have a master plan that's in effect, and it did note that it should be identified in the what was it called? The multifamily resort, future land use, and I think that is still something under consideration right now in the master plan that's still being considered. However, so you have to look for that. Courts do like to rule that if there is something challenged, that it is strongly consistent with what the city plans that property to be as well. Then consistency with zoning in the general area is another point that the Planning Commission should consider. And then consistency and compatibility for general land use patterns also in the area. And then in addition to suitability of proposed uses in that district, these are really the items that you should consider. And in fact, just kind of in and above and beyond those standards that you'll review. That's really all that I have to say.
Thanks, Brad.
The applicant is here, as we noted earlier, Allison there, and we do need to hold a public hearing, Mr.
Yes, indeed. Is there a motion to open a public hearing?
Mr. Chairman, is it possible to have the applicant first to speak towards
That's fine
their
with me.
application, and that way?
Kelly, any concerns there?
No, none for me.
If the applicant would like to come forward and share any details they'd like, that would be great, and perhaps some questions from the commissioners.
Good evening. Thank you for hearing our rezoning application. My name is Allison Coatsier. I'm one of the new owners of the Victoria Resort. We celebrate our one-year anniversary last month, so super excited. The other owner, Holly Purdy, could not be here this evening. She had some family matters to attend to, so I just wanted to talk about how we kind of came to own the Victoria Resort, give you a little personal background, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the rezoning and our future uses for the property. So about 2 years ago, Holly and I decided that we wanted to do some sort of business venture together. Her idea was a pickleball facility. My idea was some small cottages on a lake, and somehow this is our shared vision. She comes from a business nursing background. I'm a veterinarian and a realtor, so kind of seems like a left turn to a lot of people, but really those businesses are super client service oriented, or guest services as we call it now with what we do currently. So just continuing that. So I vacation in South Haven since my son was small, so very familiar with the city and have always enjoyed the city. So when we were originally working on our appeal last year, as Kelly mentioned, I did reach out to every neighbor that was abutting the property to have a conversation, one, about how can we be a good neighbor, are there things you liked about the resort, are there things you disliked about the resort, knowing full well that not everyone would be in favor of a rezoning. It's scary to people. People don't know what's going to happen. And I just want everyone to realize that anything we do intend to do, which in our vision is consistent with keeping it a resort, so basically having it function as it does today and has for the last over 100 years. So I also wanted to read part of the commissioners have already seen this, or the Planning Commission, and I don't know people here if they had a chance to read the formal application, but just wanted to go with the Victoria Resort is currently non-conforming use in the R1B single-family district. We're asking to have the subject property rezoned to the RM1 multifamily residential. The City of South Haven 2018 future land use map has this property characterized as multifamily attached residential resort. So as proposed, that has not been adopted, but as proposed, that's where the future land use map is going. We'd like to bring this resort into compliance with this land map. The property was originally built in the 1920s as a resort and has functioned at capacity since its inception. The area is once known as the Catskills of the Midwest for the vibrant vacation culture and vacationers from all over. It is the only true resort remaining in the City of South Haven as a true resort, in the fact that we do have a bed and breakfast on property, and we do also have small cottages. And we believe this helps preserve South Haven's rich Jewish resort history, and we'd like to continue to do that. There's also, I referred to in the report, there are some actual pages in the master plan that refer to our property in particular as a resort on Oak Street. And we believe the zoning change would have little to no impact on the surrounding homes, as the proposed change is keeping in line with its current use. All the current neighbors are obviously familiar that we are a resort, and I'm assuming, can't say for sure, but of all the people that are living surrounding the resort, I'm assuming the resort has been there longer than they have, so. Our goal, and, lots of people have talked to me about what they think we're going to do. I had someone ask me earlier this week, so are you going to sell off those cottages? I'm like, no, but just want people to be aware that we would welcome any conversation from anyone, anytime they want to call the resort, reach out to us, happy to do a tour, just so that there's not so much, I guess, curiosity or ambiguity about what's going to actually happen with the resort. But our really only goal is to create some indoor gathering space. We have a bed and breakfast, which basically has hallways and rooms, and then we do have the cottages, but there's no indoor gathering space for people. So when people come as families, or if several couples would come to the resort and stay in the bed and breakfast, they don't have any place to congregate except, kind of on their beds or in the hallway. So we would like to basically, change. There's 2 garages in the back of our property. We'd like to restructure, expand those slightly, and create some indoor space for those people. That's our goal. Obviously, that will have to be a permitted use. We can't just have you make a recommendation today and start digging tomorrow. So we understand that. So, any questions for me?
Any questions from the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
thanks for the presentation. One thing that I would like you to expound on that I didn't see in the packet, and maybe I read through it and didn't realize that this was answering it. The rules for the application that are in the zoning ordinance include a requirement that you state the changed or changing conditions in the area or the city that make it reasonably necessary to have this zoning change in order to promote the health welfare of the area. Can you explain what that change would be, or changing conditions that you believe exist?
Well, for me, certainly vacation, I guess, agendas and what people want to do on vacations has changed. So for us to continue to function as we are, I do believe that we need to provide some additional amenities that we're not providing currently for us to continue to be a successful resort. I don't know if that answers your question specifically, but I would say that has the expectation for people that are traveling, I think, has changed versus what it was 20, 30 years ago.
My second question is, last April, your partner had mentioned that you were looking to add sidewalks and then to address this building, which has kind of an odd shape and not equal floors, probably something for your gathering area. So are the sidewalks and this building the 2 improvements you're still looking to do?
Yeah, we don't have any great grandiose expansion ideas. So we have, and unfortunately, as you all aware, South Haven's a great city, and I actually like being here in the winter, but it is not as many people here in the winter. So, from a resort standpoint, we can only fill so many rooms, unfortunately, or fortunately, from your perspective, I guess. So,
just 2 more quickly. It took 11 months to come back. Any reason why?
Yeah, so I was not here. I was on spring break with my son last year, so I was not here. Holly informed me that there was definitely some negative concerns from the community about the rezoning. So our goal was to work on some of the deferred maintenance, kind of bring the resort closer to what we kind of would like to see it look like, and give people some time to realize that, we weren't tearing down buildings and we weren't, on these big condo plans or selling off plans that people think we're on, So I was hoping that time would maybe make it appear more favorable for more people.
And then the final question. We had been told in April that we were not going to have your application on the agenda because you were considering the conditional zoning. And given you just said that you were looking at some potential negative comments about the zoning change, what changed your mind to not consider a conditional zoning?
Well, that is kind of I guess, a very simple answer, and I'm not sure that it's maybe the answer everybody wants to hear, but it's, this place is a resort, and it has been a resort, and I think it should be zoned as such. I mean, it's,
Thank you, those are mine.
Thank you, Mike. Anybody else with questions for Allison? Mary, go ahead.
For the buildings that you were looking at for the gathering spaces, you had said restructure and expand, and that you would need a special use. Under RM1, a resort and bed and breakfast also require a special land use. Were you planning to be filing for a special land use to be a resort? Because rezoning just gives you the right to get the special land use. for a
correct. So,
resort.
yeah, so this is the first step towards doing what we want to do. So I know that it does not end here. Like I've said, I mean, we can't just go start building things. We're going to have to get other permits to do what we want to do. That's understood.
Right, but it's also for the land use. It's not just for construction. So the way I've read this, and maybe Attorney Inks can help clarify my issue, is that simply rezoning doesn't automatically make it a lawful use. You still have to get a special land use, in my reading of the ordinance, for it to be a resort. I think that then through that two-step process, I believe that's what would address concerns that residents have raised. Just rezoning to RM1 without the special land use requirement then opens it up, as Brad rightly pointed out. I mean, it can be multifamily dwellings, and it may not be you, but when you sell it, if it's rezoned to RM1, then anything permitted by right is possible. And I believe that was one reason there was concern raised, and I believe anticipation by the surrounding residents, based on comments that we've heard, that a conditional rezoning was expected to address their concerns, because then that would prohibit the multifamily dwellings and the duplexes and things like that that could increase the intensity of the use that it currently is. I think that is the biggest concern from what I've heard so far, is for this rezoning. It's great if you stay as is, but that's not what the request is, and the request allows anything which could be at increased intensity of use.
My understanding is that anything that I would do, whether it's restructure the garages, or if someone in the future wants to add whatever everyone's concerned about, that it would still require additional steps. Am I wrong in that?
I believe you're correct, and Kelly, maybe you could comment on this, because I had some questions similar to Mary's. I believe a site plan review would be required from Planning Commission in the case of, I'm looking at Article 20 in the South Haven zoning ordinance, and it says, site plan review and approval shall be required before any change of use, excavation, removal of soil, clearing of site, and so on. So am I right there, Kelly? Any change would require a site plan review and approval by Planning Commission, is that correct?
So, and we'll have Attorney Ings weigh in on this as well, but there are many maintenance activities that can be undertaken now. So repairs to windows and siding and roofing and all of those sorts of things that have been going on and probably will continue are allowed under the ordinance. But to make major changes, to make additions to buildings, those are the types of things that would require the special land use that we've been talking about. And site plan review as special land use. Would you like to add to that?
I mean, in short, it's just never the answer people want to hear, but it depends on exactly what the proposal is. I don't want to opine too much on hypotheticals. If commissioners have a specific question they want me to answer, I can answer that. But Ms. Getman just said is correct, that minor things could be done, major things may need additional approvals.
Okay.
That was all my questions.
And I'll second in a sense some of Mary's questions / concerns. Article 6 in the South Haven zoning ordinance lists those items that are permitted by right. And in an RM1 district, that would include multiple family dwellings, single family attached, and two-family dwellings. All those would be permitted by right. None of those are permitted by right in the R1B or R1A districts. So again, had there been some conditions associated that perhaps had excluded that, this might be viewed in a different way. I'm not saying how it's going to be viewed, but that would be a concern, as Commissioner Hoslick said. You, sometime in the future, could sell this parcel, and someone else then could do things that perhaps you have no intention of doing.
Correct. I can't foresee the future, for sure.
Right, understand. So,
But, Mr. Chairman, if I could just
please,
ask.
go ahead.
First of all, if this is rezoned RM1, the fact that the resort is in a special land use category, would that then require the owner to file for a special land use for the resort, for them to be other than legal nonconforming?
Yes, if they wanted to eliminate the lawful nonconforming status to be permitted, they would have to
Okay.
seek and be granted special land use approval, at which case then they would have special land use approval.
And I did understand what you said about permitted by right, because I'm looking at Article 6. But if they did want to do that, they would still have to come back to the Planning Commission with a site plan.
I believe that's correct.
They'd
Am I
have to
right there?
come with something for them to proceed. Is that true, or am I confused?
Special land uses are reviewed by the Planning Commission. So any major change, again, we're like headed into the land of the hypothetical. So it would depend on what the proposal was, but any
Okay.
major change would be reviewed by the Planning Commission.
And as it is today, they could continue to do maintenance.
Yes.
So based on that, my understanding is, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's kind of what I said in the beginning, that, so let's say two families are permitted use, and I just go home tonight and say, woo-hoo, I'm going to go build a two-family. I still can't just do that. So you guys would still have the opportunity to say no. So I'm not really, in some ways, I guess I get a new zoning, and it does make it easier for me to do the things I want to do at my resort, but it doesn't change the fact that you can still be in opposition to any of the things you're currently in opposition to me doing. So my feeling is, if you're not in opposition to me continuing to run it as a resort, then you should find in favor of the rezoning.
All right. Other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, let's take that example further. So if somebody comes in the future and says that we want to do bed and breakfast in that space, they still would have to come here, and they would still have to present a site plan review and get that special land use. And then they'd have to make their case that indeed it would be not disruptive to the surrounding area. So they would have to make that case, just like you have to make the case about bringing in the resort. Each person, if they have another plan for it in the future, still has to go through that process of the special land use, and then also a site plan review, and make sure that it's not disruptive to that area.
That is my understanding, but I did want to clarify, we do currently have a bed and breakfast on the property. Just, I mean, just,
Oh, okay.
so.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, anything else? Thanks for that extra detail, and you're welcome to be seated, and who knows, we might have other questions for you.
Okay.
So I think we do need to open a public hearing. Is there a motion to do that?
I move to open the public hearing.
Support?
It's moved and supported to open the public hearing. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All right, citizens who would like to speak for or against this agenda item are welcome to come forward. We ask if you would please to identify yourself, name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes and 5 minutes, excuse me, 5 minutes. We're being generous tonight. 5 minutes, and we're glad to hear your thoughts. So please come forward if you'd like to speak.
Hello, my name is Kurt Bittman. I live at 201 Brockway. I was born and raised in that house. I'm 68 years old, so I've been there 68 years. The thing that I wanted to bring up is I am in complete opposition of this, but I thank you for your time in allowing me to express it. While the resort development may seem apparently appealing, we must consider the long-term interest of our neighborhood and, by extension, our city. Residential zonings sustains a stable, round, if I put on my glasses, I'll be able to see this. There we go. Year-round population, fostering a sense of belonging. Resident local taxpayers, volunteers, and stockholders invested in schools, infrastructure, and civic life. In contrast, resort areas prioritize transient visitors, often straining local services without the same long-term investment. Residential development also protects the existing character of neighborhoods, preserving peaceful environments where families thrive. Property values remain steadier when neighborhoods are cohesive and not subjected to seasonal fluctuations. Lastly, residential areas foster predictable infrastructure demand, allowing city plan sustainability. In short, maintaining residential zoning means prioritizing community stability, long-term economic health, a place where people don't visit but truly belong. But I have some other questions. I have questions about what is this going to do to my taxes? And how is it going to affect them incrementally? What we're talking about here exactly is right, are hypotheticals that are subjective. I want to see the objectivity. What is the feasibility study? What feasibility studies have gone on? What type of cost-benefit analysis has taken place? I want to know exactly, as close within a level of sustainability of what we're looking at. How is this going to affect the rates of my other property, my property tax, the sewer, the water, the electric, everything. I understand that this is going to be internal, but that's what's proposed for now. What about in 5 years? What about in 10 years? What does that mean? Why couldn't changes occur at that point? So, and what have we learned, and what has been discussed, and what has been studied by others who have gone through in other cities the same type of situation, and only to say, I wish that I wouldn't have. So we can't take it back. Once the buildings are built, or the building is enhanced, or whatever the case may be, I'm stuck with that. And as a psychologist here, and going to be retired June 5th, I'm going to be on an income that's going to be levied by my Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, et cetera. So as prices elevate, I see that the area is developing further and further. I want to know who's going to take care of those roads, and how much is that going to cost me? Not just now, but in 5 years, in 10 years. And I wonder about the business plan that was given by the applicant, because I'm not privy to it, and it seems pretty ambiguous, and it doesn't seem to have a lot of specificity to it. And I am not concerned with what's said. I'm concerned with what's not being said, and what's going to be done and not going to be done. So just because we're here to discuss this, I want to be clear that this is something that until I have more information, I can't go on. However, I do want to make this clear. You guys have all heard this before, I'm sure. But you have not all heard that I have also been in touch with an attorney firm about this issue. And they are well aware of what's going on here, as I have let them do. And I will lead a coalition for this, for my cause, if I need to, with or without others. And they are well aware that they would want the specificity. They would want to know every definition possible. So with that being said, I yield back.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Anyone else like to speak in regard to the rezoning request for 241 Oak Street?
Good evening. My name is Mona Meadow, 325 Oakway Drive. The first thing I wanted to say, Mr. Chairman, I know for at least 5 other emails or text messages or letters that had been sent to Kelly about objecting to the rezoning that you had mentioned. And I was one of those that wasn't mentioned, but I did send one.
And I know you're right. You didn't make our list, so that's an oversight, but I
But there
absolutely
were
saw your
others
message.
also. There were 4 other neighbors on my street also that had
Okay.
sent.
Okay, well, that's an oversight on our part, so.
Okay, so I
Mr.
just wanted to
Chairman,
make sure.
I know that one of the messages, and we can stop your time here for a moment. One of the messages that was sent to me, forwarded initially by Commissioner Hasley, and then came later in the day, my name was misspelled. And so perhaps other senders misspelled my name and the messages didn't arrive.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, Mary.
I'm not sure if were the messages just recent, or were they from the hearing a year ago?
Recent.
Yeah, I certainly read a
Remember,
message from Mona within the last several days, I'll say, so, yes, our
But a
apologies
few
for
weeks
that.
ago, when we thought that this meeting was going to be a few weeks ago, and then it got rescheduled because our whole neighborhood was,
Right,
in an
Right,
uproar.
so apologies for omitting that, but please
Okay.
go ahead and
So
we'll,
those were read into the meeting last time.
okay, thanks for Kelly for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sorry about that.
So, please continue with your comments.
Okay, thank you. So I will say that I object to the rezoning. Basically, it's my concern for the future use of the land. If it were to be sold to somebody else that could then come in and build houses, condos, whatever. We've had our house for over 30 years. We pay a lot of money in taxes to live that close to the beach. And in the summer, the beach is already crowded, very crowded. So to imagine more housing on that property in the future is not appealing to us. Let's see. There's been other housing developments that have been built in the last 30 years. Woodbridge behind Brockway, the housing, the condos down the hill from our neighborhood, and also all the houses that went up on Baseline. All those people come to Oak Street Beach, so that contributes to the crowding. And I think that's what I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? Please.
Hello, I'm Susan Peterson. I live at 270 Park Avenue. I'm opposed to the rezoning of 241 Oak Street. I love the resort, its history, the property is just beautiful. A bed and breakfast or a resort, the owners can label it either way, however they want. And it's been operating as such before me. I've lived here over 30 years. But for the city to label it non-conforming use in the R1B district, I think it's just wrong. Rezoning isn't needed. Non-conforming use label needs to go. They've done it with STRs. They're doing it with this resort. And it's just not right. Nobody wants to be in the non-conforming category. It affects things. The RM1 zoning is not good. It's a negative impact for any neighborhood, and especially on our north side. It would be more congestion, more traffic. They could do anything there. apartments. We don't need any more condos. They could do a trailer park, businesses. None of that belongs in a nice, rich neighborhood like we have. So I think that keeping it how it is, it's always been a resort. We've all always loved it. They don't need to rezone to do what they want to do. And when you rezone, it opens the barn door and you can't get the horses back in. So I oppose it.
Thank you for your comments. Yes, sir. Tony?
Hi, I'm Tony Carollo. I own the house at 242 Oak, directly across from the resort. And you've got a letter in your packet there from my family as to why we object to having the zoning change. I'll just read a couple of questions here for you. We're in a highly restrictive R1B, which is 35-foot high residential district. The commission approves the rezoning without a binding development agreement. They're essentially saying we trust those who own the property for 5 to 10 years are going to be good neighbors, which is not how it should work. 3 questions. Lack of a binding plan. I think that's been brought up already. This commission approves the rezoning to RM1 tonight. The property is sold tomorrow. What legal mechanism does the city have to prevent the new developer from building a 3-story high-rise apartment building complex that maximizes every inch of the RM1 setback? Without the concurrent binding site plan, isn't the city essentially abdicating its oversight of the future of Oak Street? On infrastructure vesting, does the city have a current study showing the sewer and water lines on Oak Street, which is designed for single-family residential use, whether it can handle the maximum potential density that the RN1 is going to bring? If not, why are these density rates before confirming our infrastructure can support them? Why aren't these floating entitlements? We are told for compliance with the use that this is not true, that the city isn't using conditional rezoning. Why isn't the city using conditional rezoning? A conditional rezone would allow the current use to be legal, but revert back to zoning back to R1B if the current building is ever demolished and use changes. Why give the permanent RM1 rates for temporary compliance issues? It just seems to me we're allowing a change that doesn't have to be granted right now. A conditional use of the property would go a long way to keeping it the way it is. We have no problem with what it is. I love pickleball. You all know that. I love seeing it across the way from me. But I'm concerned about the next owner, not these owners. And it just kind of opens the door to let someone else take and control that property and do something else with it. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your comments, Tony. Anyone else wish to speak on this topic? Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I move to close the hearing.
Support?
Moved and supported to close the public hearing. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? The public hearing is closed. And just for the record, and it's really not our intention here to answer questions, but for you to voice your concerns. But I'll say that any conditional rezoning or any conditions attached to a rezoning request must come from the applicant. The city can't impose conditions on that. So just to help your understanding. I'm going to reinforce just for a second, I think part of what Brad referred to earlier, and this is the South Haven zoning ordinance. Specifically, if you're following along at home, at the page 216, where it specifically speaks to map amendments, zoning map amendments. And there are 5 items, if you will, 5 considerations to make, and I'm just going to read them to you. A, if the proposed zoning amendment is consistent with the city's adopted master plan. B, if the proposed zoning amendment is consistent with recent development trends in the area. C, if the zoning amendment is compatible with existing land uses in the vicinity of the subject site. D, if existing or planned public infrastructure, including streets, sanitary sewers, et cetera, are capable of accommodating potential changes in land use. And E, if the proposed amendment is consistent with the intent and purpose of this ordinance. So those are the factors that we have to consider, and as Council Inc. said, we can't really talk about hypotheticals. We can only deal with the specifics that the ordinance requires. So that being said, I'll ask for any discussion, comments, suggestions from commissioners.
Mr.
Go
Chairman.
ahead, Mike, please.
I struggle with this application because of our recent discussions in the last couple of months concerning the Bundy property. And I'm going to address a lot of my comments to Attorney Inc. so that he can provide some kind of distinction that will clear it in my head. Going back to the Bundy property, we had, as part of our 2025 master plan deliberations, noted that we wanted to change the future land use for the Bundy's property from RM1 to commercial. It met with much objection from the neighbors, just like now. The reason for doing that was that the property had been made lawfully non-conforming as a result of a change in the zoning ordinance. At our meeting in January, when we discussed the appropriate future land use for that piece of property, Attorney Inks had given us a tutorial on nonconformities and the fact that in the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, he said the intent ingrained in that act is that nonconformities are intended not to last forever and that they are supposed to go away. And thus, partly on that logic, we changed the future use map for the Bundy's property back to RM1. The property in question here in this application is not dissimilar to the Bundy property. It is a lawful non-conforming property. The difference is that this property, the resort, has been lawful non-conforming for, looking back at minutes and agendas of other meetings about the resort, 20, 40 years. It's been non-conforming for that long. The Bundy property on the other end just became non-conforming in 2024. So we have a non-conforming property that somehow had a future land use map designation in 2018 that was changed from residential to the multi and resort and so forth. I guess the first question that I have is, why did that change occur in the 2018 master plan? And I will ask Kelly and the 2 members of the 4 who were on the commission at the time who are present tonight to provide me any information as to why that future land use map was made or designation change was made in 2018 to change Victoria Resort from residential to the multifamily and resort. I don't know if there is any recollection of why that happened, but if there is, it would be useful to hear.
I'm afraid I don't have an answer. I wasn't working with the city when the 2018 plan was drafted. I only know what the plan says and what the designation for that property is on the map and in the text. So I can't give you more of the why.
I don't recall any specific discussion from that time. It appears quite obvious to me now that one of the reasons might have been to get away from the non-conforming definition.
That's That's what I recall as well.
And I guess my argument there is, I think we are of the understanding that nonconformities are supposed to go away, but our purpose isn't really to change something to bring things into conformity. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe that's the distinction. But I see a very clear parallel between the two properties. If we would have kept the commercial designation for future land use on the Bundy's property, sometime down the road, it would likely have come that the property owners would have come here asking for a B1 or B2 designation. And it's the exact case that we are looking at today. So for me, I don't think we can be inconsistent in our findings unless there's a distinction that can be brought as to why this property is different from the other one. Personally, I would suggest that the Planning Commission in 2018 made an error in making a judgment for the future land use map for this particular property, maybe not having the advice from council that we had when we made the change for the Bundy property. So I guess that's my first point, looking for a distinction of why this is different than the other.
So one of the statements that you made is that you believe because nonconformity should go away, that the city shouldn't bring a currently lawfully nonconforming use into conformity through a zoning ordinance. And that's not correct. The goal of having recognizing something as a lawful nonconformity is that eventually it will go away if it continues to be nonconforming. But it is also potentially appropriate to rezone a property so that it is conforming. If you remove that lawful nonconforming status and make the use conforming, that is an appropriate decision by the city. That being said, whether you should make a zoning ordinance change to bring something into conformity is a policy question for the Planning Commission and City Council. In 2018, the Planning Commission apparently believed that it was appropriate to have potentially some sort of change to the zoning ordinance in the future to bring this property into compliance. Now, there are multiple ways that you can go about doing that. One is a straightforward conventional rezoning, which is what the applicant has proposed, where you would rezone to RM1. The benefit of that approach is that you remove the lawful nonconforming status and potentially bring the property into conformity. You wouldn't have that happen immediately here because, as we've talked about, the resort use is a special land use in the RM1. So the property would remain lawfully nonconforming even if the property were rezoned to RM1, unless and until the property owner was able to secure special land use approval. The other way that you can go about removing lawful nonconforming status would be if the applicant were to propose a conditional rezoning. And that was discussed last April. The benefit there is you can tailor the rezoning to remove the nonconformity without bringing in all of the other uses that would be allowed under RM1. The 2018 master plan does not provide guidance to the Planning Commission whether the 2018 Planning Commission thought that a straightforward rezoning would be appropriate or a conditional rezoning would be appropriate. Does that kind of answer your question?
That's helpful. And I do have other comments. but
Please
I'll
go
let others-
right ahead, Mike.
I'll actually let others speak
Okay.
first.
Anyone else with questions, comments?
I certainly have a comment.
Please.
And that is, I really don't understand why we're reluctant to rezone this property RM1 when that's how our zoning ordinance is structured. I mean, if I look at page 3-7 in the zoning ordinance, and I go and I look at resorts, the only zoning category that shows up in that matrix is RM1. So we've got the owners coming in and basically they're legal non-conforming. By leaving them legal non-conforming, the reason that at least I understand as I'm listening is the reason we do that is it basically prevents the owner from doing anything different. This has been a business for 100 years. This is a business before this was a neighborhood. And so I do not understand why we would not simply zone them in accordance with our zoning ordinance, in accordance with our master plan. And if they choose to change strategies, and they want to do something different, there are processes within the zoning ordinance and within our other ordinances that they would use to do that. And so I do understand the concerns, but actually my view is the same on Bundy's Bakery. We seem intent on leaving people in legal non-conforming status so they can't run their businesses. We've got all kinds of other guardrails out there that they have to adhere to. They can't just do whatever they want. So I think we should approve it, and I see no reason why we wouldn't.
All right. Thanks very much, Paul. Other comments? Janice, anything? Mary?
Sure. Along the same lines, the biggest concern that I've heard from the immediate neighbors, I call it a micro-community, for ease of discussion. If you look at that once it's rezoned, it can be anything. And that is why I believe I've heard, the terminology of spot zoning, because it's putting in the center of the R1B area an RM1, which can have a significantly more intense use than the R1B. And if you look actually at the current master plan, it's page 50 of 117, it's page 42 of the plan, it actually talks about the resort on Oak Street recommended for this zoning so that a legally existing non-conforming use can be brought into conformance. And so that's really narrowly tailored. It's not a blanket, I would say, rezoning, but a narrowly tailored. So I think the master plan actually does provide guidance, but I guess it just depends on how one reads it. In reading it in the light most favorable to those who have been there for 30 plus up to 68 years is the highest we've heard tonight, that could be significant, having a blanket rezoning. I have heard wonderful things about what the current owners are doing, and I think everyone's thrilled to see the updates. So thank you for that. I also can appreciate the concern of neighbors, because once the toe is in the door, things change. And it's not that they're opposed to change, but they have relied on the R1B zoning for decades. And if it were narrowly tailored, I think there would be much less concern, because it would be contingent on it remaining a resort, remaining of similar intensity. But that's not what we have before us, and that was also the concern with Bundy. So I do see the parallel. And that's why I'm very concerned. And also just going through the other factors, the staff report says, well, once it's rezoned, it's brought into conformance. But we heard, and thank you very much, Attorney Inks, I was very appreciative of the fact that you said, well, this is the first step into, that there still needs to be a special land use. So that could be a little more clear. With regard to being compatible with existing land uses in the vicinity, there's a lot of emphasis put on the fact that the north side of the Black River is, the second largest short-term rental. But actually looking at what we've done in the last year, and that's where, unfortunately, the application wasn't updated to take this into effect. But in May of last year, our zoning ordinance changed, and short-term rentals are now only in the overlay zone in which this does not occur. And if you compare the short-term rental reports from 2024 and 2025, actually, the number of all business non-exempt short-term rentals and all non-exempt housing units has stayed the same. 359 in 2025 report and 359 in the 2024 report. So that hasn't increased. And with our current zoning ordinance, it cannot increase really in that vicinity. And especially if you look at the 2024 report and you look at the yellow dots of where short-term rentals are in that micro community, there are hardly any around the
But
resort.
can I ask a very specific question? The short-term rentals that are currently approved in that area are still in place.
Correct.
The overlay district didn't impact that at all. So we can't have new short-term rentals there. Absolutely correct. But my understanding is the ones that are there are there. Is that right?
Correct, but the application and the staff reports says, as noted earlier, the property's use, well, no, where, yeah, there, just, it talks about the area north of the river being the second largest short-term rental. But actually, if you look at it, it's actually very light, and especially in that area between North Shore Drive, Oak Way, Brockway, there's hardly any short-term rentals. So the biggest resort part is the area being asked to be rezoned, and without any limitations on it, it could have a significant impact. And most importantly, if you look at the special land use, because one person did inquire about the impact on the roads for a resort under section 1904.35, it's on page 119, ingress and egress to the resort shall only be from a major thoroughfare. But that's really a peninsula, because you can only get to it from, I believe the only driveway to it is Oak, but Oak really loops around to Brockway. There's only two ingresses. And I hear from residents frequently that those roads are, in need of repair. So I do have a concern that not all of those criteria that need to be met can be met.
All right, let's try to move on if we can. Janice or Larry, any comments to add, questions?
No, I think we need to look at the findings that were proposed and see if those have been filled, and then also understanding that that the special land uses, if we accept this for the future, just like the resorts had to come before us to make sure that it met all of those requirements, so would anything else. So each time we make these decisions, it certainly depends on what is proposed, how it fits into the neighborhood, all the other stipulations that are given, as you said, regarding the other ordinances and everything else that needs to be taken into consideration, and move forward from that perspective.
Okay.
I think all of my comments will will come out as we discuss each one of
Okay.
these
Well,
individual criteria.
Let's
so.
perhaps move on then and consider, because there is an ordinance or a resolution in the packet. Oh, I'm sorry, Mike, you said you had some other questions.
I'll hold mine until we're going through
Okay.
these.
There is a resolution or draft resolution in the packet, and it speaks to the 5 conditions that I mentioned earlier that are in the South Haven zoning ordinance, page 216. So let's talk about A, if the proposed zoning amendment is consistent with the city's adopted master plan. Do we feel that condition is met?
Yes?
I think clearly it's actually spelled out as the,
Paul, do you agree?
What page are we on in the package? I'm sorry.
Well, I'm not sure if it's in the, I'm looking at the
I thought
South Haven
it was in
zoning
the
ordinance,
package.
page 216.
Ordinance. Okay, thank you. No problem.
It starts on page 2 in the staff report.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Opinions? Is item A met?
Yes?
Yes.
Mary? Mike? Yes?
I would say no, for the reasons that I've stated about the master plan actually there's obviously 2 interpretations. My interpretation is that the master plan narrowly tailors the rezoning, and that's not in this situation. It's a
Mike, your opinion there?
No.
You think it's not met? All right. Item B, if the proposed zoning amendment is consistent with recent development trends in the area, is that item met?
I think it depends upon how you're looking at recent. That word seems to be a key. Mary's interpretation, quoting the 23 and the 24 short-term rentals being recent, I think that's very recent. If you look at the history of this particular piece of property, 2024 and 2025 is very, very recent. I would take a little longer view, and that would take me back to perhaps the 2018 when we started talking about short-term rentals as being recent development. And in that case, I think it's met.
Paul?
Mr. Chairman?
Is that met? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, I agree.
Good, Mike.
The language, because the resort use will remain unchanged, I'm not sure how we can say that. We can say that if the applicant had applied a condition to this particular application, but we can't say because the resort use will remain unchanged, because we don't know.
But was that indicating the term resort, not necessarily a site plan of what's going to occur?
I'm saying that the word of the current owner is that the resort will stay unchanged. However, as has been pointed out, a future owner could well do something other than a resort. And so I think that the use of the resort use will remain unchanged is inappropriate in that finding.
May I ask a question specific about that? Because my understanding is the property will remain legal non-conforming if we make the change to RM1 until the owner chooses to file a special land use. As long as it's legal non-conforming, what can they do? I don't think they can. They would have to take action of some sort in order to get the property out of that status to allow them to do whatever it is they want to do.
Well, not whatever they want to do. If they want to be a resort, they'd have to have a special land use, but if
Right.
they want to tear it down and make an apartment building,
They have to have some sort of permit.
they'd have to get a permit, but
Yeah.
they could do it.
Well, not without approval of their permit.
Not without the approval of the permit, but I'm saying because the resort use will remain unchanged suggests that this is just going to be used as a resort.
So you're saying with a site plan review,
I'm not
following
talking
the
about anything.
processes that would allow them to proceed? That's a question.
All I'm saying is that with a change in the zoning,
Mhm.
there's no guarantee that it has to be a resort. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And to the extent that they would need to come before the Planning Commission. I think it's important for the Planning Commission to keep in mind there are different standards for site plan review than there are for special land use. Even if it has to come back before the Planning Commission, if it is a use permitted by right, you have no authority to deny the site plan based on a disagreement about the use. Any denial would have to be tied to one of the standards for the site plan. So there is oversight depending on how they potentially redevelop the site, but I think it's important for the Planning Commission to clearly understand that what they would have to come back before you for would depend on precisely what they want to do with the site. And there are going to be potentially different guardrails in place, using guardrails, the term that planning commissioners have said already, depending on whether it is a use permitted by right or special land use. And whether you are comfortable with the uses permitted by right being on this property is something that the Planning Commission needs to consider. Did that answer your question?
I think, Mike, where you and I are disagreeing is what is meant by that phrase there. Is
Correct.
it just the is it just the rezoning, or is it future things that have to occur also? Things can not happen without other events occurring.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
That is true. But,
And
but
that-
mine is, if it didn't have the resort use will remain unchanged, I could probably say, yes, that is met. But with that there, I disagree.
Yeah.
Would be.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
So I feel like we've kind of wandered off. We were considering item B in the list of 5 items to be considered if the proposed zoning amendment is consistent with recent development trends. Are we in agreement or disagreement that's been met?
Mr. Chair, if I can clarify, I think
Please.
what Commissioner Campbell is referring to is the draft resolution.
Yes.
And I think you're just looking at the standard. So I
Correct.
would say to Commissioner Campbell's point, to the extent that you believe that the standard has been met, but you disagree with the specific finding in the resolution, the Planning Commission is free to amend the resolution. I would just point that out.
That's correct. Thank you.
Mary, did you have a comment?
I was just going to say, towards that end, my understanding from what Commissioner Campbell was saying is that with regard to item B, there is no guarantee that the use will stay the same. Because once it's rezoned, and thank you again, Attorney Inks, for clarifying that, once it's rezoned, anything by right can occur on it, and we are limited on approving the site plan to, does it meet the specific criteria, irrelevant of the uses. And until it has the special land use of resort, assuming it can get it, until then, once it's rezoned, anything by right can happen there. And we are very limited. And that's why the residents have raised the concern about let it continue as is. It has existed that way for very many years. The request is too broad for what they want. And as I've already said, my interpretation of the master plan says it should be narrowly tailored, and that is not what is before us. So I don't believe item B is met. And the trends in that area actually are, I mean, Woodbridge Hills has been built in that single family, and I believe the HOA does not allow short-term rentals or, types. And the trend in that area is most of the second homeowners treat it as though they're year-round. There are hardly any short-term rentals. And it's very residential, non-transient. That's what we're hearing from the majority of the neighbors.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
And that's precisely why I asked the applicant the question I did about why they chose not to do the conditions, because they had also stated that they want to continue this resort, and that is their sole purpose, and so forth. And yet they, in spite of the objections from the neighborhood and whatever they might have heard on the Planning Commission during the first hearing, they might have been, in my book, a little bit in better position to meet this if they had come forward with a condition that we are just going to do this as a resort and limit the use of the property within that particular future use map designation.
In other words, had they implied a condition or included a condition that would eliminate some of the uses permitted by right under RM1?
I think it would have addressed a number of the objections that they were aware of, and thus, I stand by saying, no, I don't think this is met, because this, I think, opens the door.
Okay, so we've got mixed opinions there. Item C says if the zoning amendment is compatible with existing land uses in the
Chairman?
vicinity of the subject site.
Should we do a vote on each
Well,
of these?
I guess we can. Mr. Inks, an opinion about that? Is a vote on each of these items more appropriate?
That's in the discretion of the Planning Commission.
It just sounds like this one might be close. It might be better
I
to
agree,
vote
I
right
agree.
as we're discussing.
So, all right, then, so the question is this proposed zoning amendment consistent with recent development trends in the area? And the answer would be yes or no. And Samantha, would you read the roll, please?
Campbell,
No.
Fenton,
Yes.
Heinig,
Yes.
Hasley,
No.
Barney,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Carries.
Item C, is it compatible with existing land uses in the vicinity of the subject site or throughout the zoning district? Thoughts, opinions there? Is that condition met? Anyone?
But we're talking about residential uses in either case. What's there or what could be under proposed rezoning. We are
It does
talking,
say specifically with existing land uses, so.
the existing land uses are residential. And the proposed rezoning would be residential, although there is a difference in density. But we're faced with that situation throughout the city. If we're going to stick with the existing densities, we're going to continue with this problem of not having appropriate housing. And so,
Other comments?
and it's not exactly clear what is meant, how specific we need to be in terms of compatible. To me, it is compatible. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
So if this is going to be tourism, in this past year, we've identified, when I say we, I mean the city in general, city council, the laws passed, have said that, short-term rentals are a commercial business. And I think tourism is a commercial business. It's identified as our number one economic development, and continually looking for ways to stretch it year-round. As aptly pointed out, this is a residential area. And depending on what is put in there, it is not compatible. And that, again, is the concern. Without any guarantees that the intensity of use will remain the current level, you cannot definitively say that it is compatible with the existing land uses in the vicinity. And I go back to the fact that Woodbridge Hills has been built, and those are single family, and I believe the HOA does not allow short-term rentals. Lena Drive, HOA, short-term rentals is not allowed. If you look at the the map, and I actually realized as I was scrolling down, it's in here, the short-term rental report for 2024. If you look at the dots on page 38 of the agenda packet, you see that there are very, very few short-term rentals in that vicinity. The reason that the north side is the second most is you have the high density in Monroe Park and Harbor Club. But in the little micro community of Brockway, North Shore Drive, Oak Street, it's very few short-term rentals. It's much more residential. And RM1 would allow anything to go in there without conditions.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Go ahead.
If we leave it exactly the way it is today, and the owners want to build this facility that provides indoor use, they were talking about combining some buildings, they want to do something like that. My understanding of their current zoning situation is they would not be allowed to do that because they're legal non-conforming. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct. Kelly, would you be kind enough to comment on that? If the zoning is unchanged, the changes that Allison referred to would not be possible because it's non-conforming currently?
So I can take that one. It would depend on what the application that they filed was. I mean, I can't give.
Well, what the assumption, I think, in answering the question you should use is, would they be allowed to build a new structure on the facility that provided indoor whatever space, ping pong tables or whatever that space would be, an indoor gathering space they currently don't have?
They likely wouldn't be able to build a new structure, no. But again, I would need to see a specific application.
I do understand. Okay, thank you.
May they modify that structure and get a variance through the ZBA?
A variance for what?
That's what, because of it being a lawfully non-conforming use.
So the city doesn't have use variances, so.
No, to build the gathering space that they wanted.
Again, I guess I'm not clear, what would the variance be from? What provision in the zoning ordinance? I'm not clear what you're asking.
I am trying to push the limit to see if there is a way for them to do the gathering space under the current zoning.
No, again, the city doesn't allow use variances. So if you're talking about
it wouldn't be a use variance, it would be construction, but no, okay.
So the two types of use variances are either, it's either dimensional or non-dimensional, non-dimensional being use. So if, still not quite understanding the question, it would be the fact that they are building a resort building, which would be a use, that likely precludes them from building a new building. So no, they wouldn't be able to seek a variance because you don't allow use variances.
Any other comments about item C? Well, let's continue the pattern. Samantha, would you read the roll? And the question is the zoning amendment compatible with existing land uses in the vicinity?
Finn,
Yes.
Heinig,
Yes.
Hasley,
No.
Barney,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Carries.
So we've got agreement there. Item D says if existing or planned public infrastructure, including streets, sanitary sewers, stormwater, water mains, wells, sidewalks, et cetera, are capable of accommodating potential changes in land use resulting from the proposed amendment. Go ahead, Mike.
This one baffles me because there's no way for us to know until we know what they're building. And the only time that there's going to be any study about this is after the action has been taken. So I don't know how it's even possible to include this in the resolution.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about that before, where we need city engineers and other professionals of that ilk to weigh in on capacities of infrastructure. So, point well taken.
Don't we ask that exact question in the site plan review for a new facility, right? So that'd be true regardless of the zoning. We would ask the same question.
But nevertheless, it's an item that it says, the zoning ordinance says we have to consider. So as best we know it, would we say it's capable of accommodating potential changes? Other opinions?
As best we know, yes. The systems are all expandable in one way or another. And so the details come up when the proposal is made. And
Well said.
And are typically and can be handled at that time.
Mary, go ahead.
Again, it's a peninsula, it's only 2 main streets, increasing the intensity when we don't even have the budget for a lot of the road repairs. It's not clear to me that that standard would be met at this point in time.
Okay. Janice, any thoughts?
Yes.
Mike, anything else to add there?
No.
All right, then, Samantha, if you would, we'll do a roll call on item D.
Heinig,
Yes.
Hasley,
No.
Barney,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Benton,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Carries.
And then item E, if the proposed amendment is consistent with the intent and purpose of this ordinance and whether the proposed amendment would protect the health, safety, and welfare of the city. It doesn't say anything about apple pie, but it gets most of the others, I think, health, welfare, and safety. So comments, opinions there? Hearing none?
Yes.
I mean, I just repeat what I've been saying, is that once it's rezoned to RM1, anything can happen, and increased intensity in a very residential area, it's in light of the comments that we've heard from residents that butt up to it and live in that community. I would be concerned about health, safety, and welfare. Again, the road, Oak Street and Brockway are both very narrow and are not used to a lot of traffic. And once it's rezoned to RM1 with the high density, anything can occur there. And I just remembered one comment I was going to make. Yes, we do need to increase density for year-round residents, not for our resorts. And that is a significant difference that the city council is working on. But that, again, just distinguishes that from our goal of increasing year-round housing.
Other comments? All right, then, the question is item E met? Is it consistent with the intent and purpose of this ordinance? Samantha, would you read the roll, please?
Hasley,
No.
Barney,
Yes.
Campbell,
No.
Benton,
Yes.
Heinig,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes. And, you know, I think some good comments and with merit certainly, and I think, Mary, if I can paraphrase, maybe I'm wrong, you're envisioning a possibility of an RM1 zoning that would allow for, by right, a multifamily building to be used. Of what size is unknown, and could that significantly add to the density, and would it put additional burdens on infrastructure and such? Valid questions. Of course, the applicant is not indicating that's what they want to do, but we know properties can change hands and intents can be revised. So I think we've talked about the 5 items that the zoning ordinance requires. I think we've got agreement, not unanimous, but agreement that they are all met. Any Any closing comments? Is there a motion regarding the resolution in the packet?
I have a question of Commissioner Campbell. The question that you had about the wording in this,
Yes.
where does that occur?
2B on page 2.
Well, it's page 66 of the PDF.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes,
Okay, under item B there,
yes.
could you suggest some wording change that might be appropriate?
I would simply amend to remove the words, "The resort will remain unchanged," and insert the word "it" before "is."
So you'd suggest striking the words "the resort use" and replace it with "it." Is that correct?
I'm saying
Remain unchanged.
the resort use will remain unchanged.
Okay.
Are the words to be stricken, as well as and then insert the word "it" before "is." So it would say on the second line, area because it is located in an area.
Okay. Understand.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would move that the Planning Commission endorse the resolution recommending approval of the amendment for the zoning map for the city of South Haven by rezoning property commonly known as 241 Oak Street from R1B single-family residence to RM1 multifamily residence as contained on page 65 and 66 of the Planning Commission, with the following two changes. Under resolved, item 2B be reworded to read, "The proposed zoning amendment is consistent with recent development trends in the area because it is located in an area within the second highest concentration of short-term rental properties in the city," and deleting item 3.
All right. We have a motion
I'll second.
and support. Any final discussion, comments? Go ahead, Mary.
I would amend to change number 4 to number 3.
Okay. If we strike item 3, then what's currently item 4 becomes item 3?
Correct.
Support.
Samantha, you with us on all this?
We need to vote on her amendment. Yeah.
All right, then we'll vote on the amendment by Commissioner Hosley to modify the resolution to delete item 3 and replace item 4 becoming item 3. That's been moved and supported, I believe. Samantha, would you read the roll on that amendment?
Barney,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Fenton,
Yes.
Heinig,
Yes.
Hosley,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And now we can consider the motion as modified by Commissioner Heining. I think we've had adequate discussion. Samantha, would you read the roll there, please?
Yes.
Campbell,
No.
Fenton,
Yes.
Heinig,
Yes.
Hosley,
No.
Barney,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. And I believe we can move on to item 5 on the agenda, which is page 72 in your agenda packet. And that's a special land use item for 224 Elkenberg Street. We'll have a public hearing in regard to this. Is the applicant here, Kelly, as well, or not?
Yes, this is an application from Terry and Tracy Brown to use the home at 224 Elkenberg, which is in phase 2 of the trailside development, as a short-term rental. Like the others in Phase 2, the unit is a 3-bedroom home with 2 parking spaces, one in the garage and one on the driveway. Trail site is in the short-term rental overlay district, so this unit is eligible for the special use permit, which will allow the owner to seek licensing for the rental. So there's Tracy.
Would you like to come forward and share any details you'd be willing to?
Hi, thank you. My husband Terry and I have lived here since 1999, and we've raised our 4 children here, and we never intend on leaving. And this is a new fun thing that we're trying is a, short-term rental. And as Kelly said, everything is, the same as, I think it was 212 has gotten theirs. So, yes. Do you have any questions?
Okay, are there questions for the applicant? I think that's all the information we need right now, but thanks for being here. And we'll consider a public.
Can I ask one quick question?
Yes, sir.
This is probably a silly question, but the HOA that you have is actually fairly restrictive in a couple ways with respect to short-term rentals. One of it says guest stays will be limited to a minimum of 7 nights. You're also limited, I think, to 1 family renting at a time per your HOA. My only question is, are you aware of that?
I was not, no.
Okay, because it's not a city requirement, but it is a requirement of your HOA, so it's just an...
It's something that we will definitely look into.
I didn't have anything else.
Thank you for bringing it to my attention. I appreciate that.
All right. Is there a motion to open a public hearing on this item?
I move to open a public meeting. Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed, no. The public hearing is open. Anyone who'd like to speak in regard to this item, the special land use application for 224 Elkenberg Street, please come forward and as usual, identify yourself and your address, please, and you'll have up to 5 minutes to speak on this topic. Seeing no one?
I move to close the public hearing.
Second?
It's moved and supported to close the public hearing. All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed, no. The public hearing is closed. Comments, as it's been said, we've had several of these, Kelly, right? How many do you think we've had on Elkenberg and that trailside development? It's been several, right? And they're very, very similar, are they not?
They are similar, intentionally similar. The developer has chosen the same plan for each unit. So one half of the unit is one plan and the other half is the other, and they're all intentionally the same.
Right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I move that we approve a special land use application for short-term rental use at 224 Elkenberg Street, subject to the conditions stated therein.
Support.
Moved and supported to approve the application for a special land use. Any discussion there?
Does the motion specifically need to reference the resolution?
Yeah, I was trying to get to the resolution. Kelly, what page is that on, please?
It is on page 180 of your packet.
Thank you very much.
That was how I interpreted Commissioner Campbell's motion, but if
Okay.
he wants to make it clearer, he can.
Oh, that's how I meant it to be.
Thank you.
We don't have numbers for it, do we?
Yeah, resolution number 2026-XX, 07. 07, we're up to number 7 on your hit parade.
So I'll withdraw my previous motion and make a new motion that we approve resolution number 2026-07, a resolution approving a special land use application for short-term rental use for the 3rd floor dwelling unit, for 224 Elkenberg Street, subject to the conditions stated therein.
Support.
All right, moved and supported to approve the application for special land use. Any discussion? Samantha, would you call the roll? I'm sorry, Mary, did you have a comment?
I did a quick search. I think this is actually just the 3rd one for Elkenberg.
Okay, 3rd, thanks.
Yep.
Samantha, would you call the roll on that item?
Fitton,
Yes.
Heinig,
Yes.
Hasley,
Yes.
Varney,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you all. Agenda item number 6, 509 Phoenix Street. This is a downtown location in the Central Business District. Another special land use application. Kelly, any backstory there?
You are correct, Mr. Chairman, and this is a third floor dwelling unit above a retail commercial use at 509 Phoenix. There is no on-site parking for 509 Phoenix, but commercial uses in the Central Business District do not require on-site parking, so the unit is eligible for the special land use permit. And the applicant is here tonight, and we need to hold a public hearing.
And the applicant is?
Teresa?
Teresa, would you come forward and add any details you might? Maybe you don't have any, I don't know.
No, just for the third floor, just because I do it the personal, I have the personal rental now, I just wanted to extend it to the building.
Right. And our terminology has changed, where it used to be personal or business, they're now, help me Kelly, Class 1 and Class 2, right? So it's currently a Class 1?
It would be a Class 2 as a former personal, and Class 1 is replacing the business.
But important to emphasize that this is an existing short-term rental. You've been permitted and complied and everything, so it's simply a change in the nature of it, if you will.
Right.
Any questions for the applicant?
Well, we're actually changing this from a 28-day limit to
Unlimited.
unlimited. Okay, thank you.
Right. All right, thank you very much for your
Mr. Chair, if I can
backstory.
just clarify.
Yes, sir.
For special land use, there's no designation between Class 1 and Class 2. I mean, if.
No,
As-
but the
as-
reason for seeking the special land use was so that the applicant could apply for the Class 1 license.
Right, but, I mean, when you say we are changing, I mean, Planning Commission is just approving the special land use. The special land use itself doesn't look at Class 1 or Class 2. That would
Correct.
be the regulatory ordinance. But yes, I mean, it's the reason for the change, but
Okay, I'm just looking at the application. I mean, I read that right off the application. That's fine, I understand.
okay, just wanted to make sure.
Thanks for clarifying, Nathan. Any discussion? Oh, well, we need to, did we close the public hearing? I've lost track.
You didn't open one.
Oh,
We
I'm
haven't
sorry. Is there a motion to open a public hearing on this item?
I move to open a public hearing.
Support.
Thank you. Moved and supported. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. The public hearing is open. Anyone who would like to speak on this item, the special land use application for 509 Phoenix Street, please come forward and offer your thoughts.
Mr. Chairman, I move to close the public hearing on the third floor dwelling unit.
Support.
Moved and supported to close the public hearing. All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed, no. The public hearing is closed. Thank you all. Any discussion?
So for the parking, because it's in a commercial use with short-term rental, I just wanted clarification of the commercial aspect of it, which was in the staff report. That it didn't need
That's a question?
a parking spot.
Oh,
I-
Correct.
Was that, I guess, one, I'm not understanding what the
Maybe
question
Kelly
is,
could-
and two, I don't know if that's directed to me or Ms. Getman Dissett.
Either, but Kelly might be more versed.
because the non-residential uses in the Central Business District are not required to provide parking, and short-term rentals have been determined to be commercial, then therefore this short-term rental would not be required to provide parking on site in the Central Business District.
Thank you.
Other comments? Is there a motion regarding 509 Phoenix Street?
I'll move to adopt the resolution that's on pages 199 and 200 of the package for today, Resolution 2026-08,
Yes.
as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported to approve Resolution 2026-08. Any final discussion? Samantha, would you please do the usual?
Heinig,
Yes.
Hasley,
Yes.
Barney,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Fenton,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you all. And item number 7, 500 Virginia Avenue, a special land use application, a request for a reconstruction of a pool. Kelly, any backstory there?
Yes, this application has come to us through Blue Water Pools on behalf of the Oak Harbor Marina to replace an existing pool at 500 Virginia Avenue. This is in the B3 Waterfront Business District. And this pool has been in place, the existing pool, since the early 1980s. And like many pools that we are seeing around town that were installed in the 1980s, that is showing signs of failure, and has been determined that replacement is a better option than repair. So that is why, the reason this is in front of you is because the initial pool did not have a special land use permit, and because it's a waterfront pool, it will need a special land use permit. The proposed pool will be fenced, and the patio area and landscaping area will be updated. The applicants do have their DEQ permit, and their soil erosion permit is in progress. We also need to hold a public hearing on this item, and I believe we've got, yes, hi, Chris from Blue Water.
Mr. Blue Water Pools.
My father was Mr. Blue Water Pools.
Oh,
Call me
okay.
Chris. Good evening. Hi, I'm Chris Coble. I'm Director of Sales and Design at Blue Water Pools. We are proposing for a reconstruction, as you already said, Mr. Chairman, of the pool at 500 Virginia Avenue. Our proposed construction is a reinforced gunite structure versus the pool that was previously existing there, the fiberglass pool, which showed signs of wear. The drainage systems and every other infrastructure system is designed to be improved upon what was pre-existing.
I drove past the site today. It looks like the pool is already gone.
Yeah, there's been a little bit of pre-site work already done there. If you look in your packets, you might see that the EGLE and the building permits and the state permits, I might have done the permitting in a slightly backwards way, and then here we are today, where we got advisement under the the soil and erosion to silt fence and then begin construction on the concrete.
Okay. All right, thanks. Any questions for the applicant? Thanks for your presence.
Thank you.
And then we'll consider a public hearing on this item. Is there a motion?
I motion to open a public hearing.
Support.
Moved and supported to open a public hearing. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. The public hearing is open. Anyone who'd like to speak to this agenda item, the special land use application for the pool at 500 Virginia Avenue, please come forward and be heard.
I am Ken Kaminsky, 500 Virginia Avenue. I'm the president of the Oak Harbor Association, and we've, as it's been stated, the pool's been there for an existing time. We'd had degradation of the existing pool, and we're only trying to improve what's already been a stable use for all of our 85 association members.
Thanks for that detail. 85 association members. I would not have guessed that many, but thanks. Okay. Anyone else who'd like to speak regarding this topic, please come forward.
Hi, my name is Maureen, last name Marvick. I've actually had a slip there for, I think, going on 10 years now. I'm right on the river. We've watched a lot of changes there, a lot of repairs. It seemed like every year we were doing something with the pool, and because we are so close to the water, we're very concerned about that. I personally feel it's probably one of the best marinas around. If you haven't gone out there, of course, now it's a mess, but plenty of parking, away from the hubbub of the city. We have places to put your dinghies, your kayaks, plenty of room to park your boats in and out, a grilling area. So basically, we don't have to come into the city for anything. We've got everything right there. So I think the new pool is going to be really cool. It's heated, by the way, which is really cool. When you get to a certain age, you like that heated pool. Thank you.
Thank you for your thoughts. Anyone else? Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Moved and supported to close the public hearing. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. The public hearing is closed. Any discussion among the commissioners?
Would it be typical to start destruction before you have a permit, or I can understand, honestly, I can understand where you might not have expected to need special land use.
It's not typical, but it's not uncommon either, and many folks don't realize that they need permits to begin that type of work.
Okay, thank you.
Wouldn't the permits for destruction really be more from DEQ and soil erosion versus the special land uses to install it, right?
Yes, and we usually encourage applicants to wait until, because we say that excavation, clearing, those types of activities are to happen once a permit is in place. But in this case, it sounds like they started a little bit sooner.
All right. Other comments or questions? Is there a motion regarding this item?
What's the resolution number?
2026-09, I believe. 2026-09.
It's on 227, I think.
Yep. I move to approve resolution number 2026-09, a resolution approving a special land use application for a swimming pool at 500 Virginia Avenue with a correction on page 228, March 5th in the second line of C, 2026 be changed to March 23rd, 2026. Is there a second?
Oh, I see what you're saying. On page 228 of the packet, the date
Yep.
references March 5th.
Yeah,
and
that one was missed. There was
Thank
a
you.
lot of work to go in, and I happened to I missed it the first time, and I was scrolling through and caught it just now. So.
Well, good catch, Mary. So that should be March 23rd regarding the meeting reference.
Yep. All the others
Did you
are.
get a support?
So moved and supported to modify that resolution in that regard?
So I move to approve the resolution with this
With that change.
change.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right then. So that's been moved and supported. No discussion? Please, Samantha.
Hasley,
Yes.
Barney,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Fenton,
Yes.
Heinig,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you all. We have no unfinished business. We have no new business. Commission member and staff comments. Kelly, anything
Point of order.
to, I'm sorry?
How about number 8?
Oh, I'm sorry. Public comment citizens may address the planning commission regarding items not on the agenda. Excuse me. Thanks, Mike. Anyone would like to speak on items not on the agenda? Yes, sir? No? No? Okay. All right, then we can move on to item 9. Kelly, do you have anything in your crystal ball that we can look forward to?
Well, I will say that I will remind everyone the next meeting is April 9, so the second week of the month. And I just wanted to thank you all for your willingness to hold a special meeting so that the applicants who needed public hearings were able to have them in March still. So I really appreciate all of you, your willingness to do that. Thank you.
All right, then.
Chairman, may I just ask?
Please, go ahead.
I saw in the paper over the weekend that the master plan will be in front of the planning commission, or a resolution to approve the changes for the master plan update will be at the April 9th meeting.
Yes, we did notice that hearing. Thank you.
And I just had a question. Someone had gone today to look at building plans, and they were told they had to file a Freedom of Information Act request if they wanted to look at plans of an adjoining property or anything. Is that how the city's now handling those requests?
I think usually we do need some notice at least to pull them out. If someone was told to FOIA, then that's certainly an appropriate response for that type of inquiry. To pull permits and plans, it does take staff quite a bit of time. Takes us away from things we're working on, like meeting prep, to do that. Takes us a considerable amount of time to get things out and ready. Sometimes if things are handy, we can have them ready in a shorter time. But certainly if somebody wants to come in and look at something, we need advance notice.
But they might be able to look at a building plan, just the building plan without a FOIA request, if
That
they
could
set up
be-
a time ahead of time.
Could be the case, yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else? Questions for Kelly? Paul, would you kick us off? Any comments from?
Mike recommended that I take a course through the MSU Extension called My Citizen Planner. It's a 24.
Citizen Planner?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I thought it was really helpful. I think having been on the commission 6 or 8 months, whatever it's been, 10 months, and then doing the class, I thought was really helpful, but it goes through a lot of scenarios and just gives me more to think about. So I thought that was a great suggestion. Thank you. Thought it was very worthwhile. That's all I got.
Thanks for that. Larry, anything profound?
No.
You almost always have something now. Come on. No?
Nothing.
Janice, anything?
Yeah, Bob, I want to say that I always appreciate the diversity of thinking on this group and constructive conversation that we have. I just want to applaud everybody here for doing their homework and bringing their best ideas for all of us to hear and to discuss. So tonight was no exception. Thank you.
Well said, well said. Mary, anything?
I echo Janice's comments, and also on the 31st, I'll be attending a coastal resilience seminar and with the Southwest Michigan Planning, an Eagle, and looking forward to that.
All right, thanks. Mike?
I just want to address something that was mentioned or discussed at City Council related to Planning Commission. During the discussion about the ordinance to allow planning commissioners to serve on other boards, there was a discussion concerning the qualifications of planning commissioners, and one of the council members was really driving hard to find out what those qualifications are. And another council member said, "Oh, planning commission, they have taken a lot of training. They are trained." And I just want to kind of clarify for the public who might be thinking about whether or not they want to apply for the planning commission. I mean, there is no program of training, and that's not a judgment of the city or anything of that sort. Most of the training that we get is on the job, learning as we go, as we discuss these items. And just as Commissioner Fitton had mentioned, each of us decides when and if we want to take any specific training to address certain areas that we want to be more proficient in. So I think it's important to realize that, no, we are not heavily trained by the time we come on to the commission, but we are able to take the training that we want and learn a lot in the course of doing our job.
Well said, and I'll commend Paul for doing the Citizen Planner program, and I remember when Mike Neese recommended that I do that, and I did. And to your point, Mike, I also attended with Kelly, what was it, 6 months or more ago, last summer, I remember, a 2-day session in Grand Rapids put on by the Michigan Association of Planners. And I just recently, Kelly, you probably haven't seen it yet, or maybe have, there's ongoing webinars, some in-person training offered by the Michigan Association of Planners and some web-based. So I did just ask how I can attend one, I forget, sometime in mid or late April. So we can continue to improve our skills, and you're entirely right, Mike. And you prompted something else, and I absolutely will make this point at the next city council that I can attend. I can't attend the first one in April because I'll be out of town, but the second one, because the resolution you referred to, I think it was 62 dash, what was it, Mary?
I don't remember.
That would allow planning commissioner to also serve on another board, and I think that's what you referred to, Mike. There was considerable discussion of that. And I spoke at that meeting on that topic, and I said by not allowing that, we shrink the pool of candidates. I said nothing whatever about the number of applicants that might be there. I would have no way of knowing how many applicants there were, nor could I judge the merit of those. But another speaker and a city council member both twisted my words to say that I claimed there weren't enough applicants. I said no such thing. I said the pool of candidates may be shrunk by that condition. You may have a very good candidate who can't be, or a very potential candidate who can't be considered for that reason. Had nothing to do with how many, so I'll make that point at the next city council meeting I'm able to attend. Last thing I know, Kelly's feeling less than 100% and can't wait to get home and tuck herself into bed, so thanks for enduring and persevering, and as always, Nathan, thanks for keeping us on the straight and narrow. So,
Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
If I just may, so I know one staff report supported that recommendation, the change, the code of ordinance change, because they were not getting enough applications. So the comment may not have been directed to you. It may have been directed at the staff report. So I'm
Perhaps, yeah. I did go back and listen to it quite carefully, but perhaps you're right. Perhaps right. So, hearing no other comments, I'll declare us adjourned.